I'm the voice, and this is Divi Updates, episode 19. Today I've got Rob and I've got Neegs. How's it going, guys?
Woo! Going good.
It's a party.
Yay! That's going great. I mean, Bitcoin is still at the same space like since what? Since we started the year almost. But we're happy, and it seems to have like good news for US regulations. So we'll go through all that, and then there's Divi news.
Yeah, I mean, I had that whole month where it actually held, and it had hit a record there. So yeah, I think it's doing fine right now.
I wish I were good at trading. I am the opposite of whatever good at trading is, and like was able to catch those swings and do whatever. Like somebody made fortunes without a doubt. But I'm not that person.
I'm not a trader at all. Not at all am I a trader.
Yeah, look, I used to be a little more on the market, but then when I started to work with Divi, I kind of left that away. And it's a lot of stress to be on the markets, really.
Oh my God.
But yeah, it can be very rewarding.
People do it. Well, the thing I mean, like the one thing that the reason I don't do that is like, if you want to make a lot of money, I think doing this, I guess you can use leverage, but it feels like you got to have a lot of money on the exchange, which is where I don't want to have a lot of money.
We'll talk about that in the Divi update after.
Yeah, right. We'll get to that too. So that's the biggest reason I don't trade is I don't want to put a bunch of money on an exchange. I use it to swap money and then take the coins back. But
sure.
Trading, like where I keep money on exchange, it's not attractive to me. So
sure, but now you also have to kind of put that in context, right? So if you put money on the exchange, you of course have to consider that now it's in a much more dangerous place. So you make sure you don't move too much. And then if you're able to offset those risks by the profits that you're making, then it starts to make sense, right?
Yeah.
So
let's go back to where I'm bad at trading.
Exactly.
It's not worth it for me at all.
And also the platform.
It's not just about being bad at it, which I think that's part of the problem is I don't have the stomach for it.
Yeah.
That probably makes me bad at it because I would rather I issue it.
Because it's not supposed to be an emotional thing, right? Like you're supposed to take your decisions based on factors that you plan. I don't know who said that, but trading is kind of seeing in the future. That's predicting, right? It's not reacting, because otherwise you're always behind if you do.
Yeah, but what I mean is like I try to predict, and then I fall into every single bear trap there is, and so.
Yeah, I mean, I think it is say that a large majority, I don't know if that number is right, but it says like 95% traders are losing. So it is like that. But I think everybody also get easily carried by their emotion. They don't stick to the decision that they had. And Tila, you talked about you got trapped in some bear trap. But in fact, if you stayed there and waited until now, for things like Bitcoin or things like that, in fact, it was not really a trap on long term. So if you, it's kind of complicated.
What I mean, getting trapped in it is like you put a stop down at a place, assuming it's because you want to protect your gains, right? And then the freaking market taps that number and then moves back up, like
right.
That's exactly what happens.
Yeah, unfortunately. So in fact, this is what happened just last week, right? Like a few days ago when the tariffs were announced. It's actually part of we're getting back on the topics. So it's actually what happened. Like a lot of people got their stop loss triggered. And I mean, you mentioned earlier margin trading, right? And you say maybe you can make a lot of money with that. You can lose also a lot of money. With that.
No, I meant with margin trading, you could put less money up on an exchange.
Yeah. No, for sure. But then, so a lot of people have been liquidated, and I mean, their numbers. We see numbers between 2 billion and 12 billion in 24 hours that would have been liquidated. So that's pretty insane numbers in 24 hours. And I think what's even crazier is that 24 hours later, it was almost back at the same price, like 5% lower.
Totally.
Pretty insane. Like, so everybody was in the same situation as you explained earlier. They had their stop loss. Now they just got out.
Yep.
It's very interesting.
Yeah, it's frustrating. That's why I don't like trading. It's just not for me. And I'm not willing to dive deep to get good at it. It's just like, it's not something I want to be good at. So I just happy to be bad at it. So anyway, so we were talking about the liquidation, and then we were talking about like well, we started talking about one particular source of that, right?
Yeah,
that's right. So
I think you found it, right, Neeks? Yeah.
Yeah, when you were saying that you have your stop loss and you hate when it just goes down and rebounds back up, there are a lot of rumors that some actors are actually doing that intentionally. And one of the major rumor that happened during this big dump is that Wintermute, a very active market maker who's working with all the biggest exchange and all that, has been accused of moving those funds, moving Ethereum, moving Bitcoin, and basically dumping it to push this market situation where they push people out. And they pretend that the exchanges are behind that, right? And then Wintermute is the actor, the ones who do that for the exchange. So it is pretty crazy, but when you get pushed out like
Divi, that, not this, but we do see how individuals, or in this case, a group of people, actions, totally affect the market. There's that 5 million Divi sell order that is very hard to pass. Like, it's totally. It seems to totally affect, what's happening with the Divi market on BitTrue. And
that's right.
It's like, it's not the same thing, but it is still a single actor affecting the price.
Yeah, because it sends signals, right? Like people want to feel good that they're buying at the right moment. And if they see there is a bigger order on top than there is underneath them, of course, they don't feel confident. So if you have a large amount of liquidity, you're able to trigger those reactions just by yourself. And the smaller the coin is, the lowest market cap, the more chances that you have that people with less financial capabilities will still have the ability to act. And the bigger the coin is, the more resources you need to have to be that kind of actor.
Right.
So yeah, it still doesn't feel good. That's essentially what we're all looking for. Is I'm looking for you to keep buying, so it makes me feel good about when I'm buying. So if you'd buy some more, that would make me happy.
That is the entire tribalism around all the coins.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think
I want you to buy it so I feel good about my purchase.
But I think it is about all financial assets in reality, right?
Maybe, yeah.
Is it? I mean, yeah, maybe so. But I mean, if you look at even some influencers, I've seen it over the last couple of days on X that, they're pretty knowledgeable. They're part of a team. They make wallets and these kinds of things. And so they're really well known, but they pose this question stating that it's okay. I think that was the question. It's okay to sell Bitcoin when you need to. Maybe I'm phrasing it wrong, but it's something like this. But it's not okay to sell Bitcoin when you want to. And that to me is it's enforcing what's called the hodl, and the hodl can be a cult. It can be.
Yeah.
Anytime you're forced to do something in that sphere because you're almost penalized socially, it becomes a cult-like environment. You should be able to sell your crypto whenever and wherever and for whatever reason you want. Should you manipulate the market? No, that's a moral imperative. You shouldn't manipulate the market, because then that may be something where you're taking from others as opposed to benefiting yourself and others. Now, that's where you and I and anyone may separate. I'm driven to really focus on trying to do win-win. Some people will manipulate the market, as we're assuming, as being said with some of these large market makers doing manipulation. They think of everything as numbers. They don't care that there's people behind it. They're driving numbers down, and then they want to buy back. That means they really want to hammer everyone else, to squeeze everyone else. And that's where I think some of these metrics, it becomes, in my position, I'm not stating anybody else's position, my position, some of these things can become greed. And for me, that's an evil. And so, yeah, there's a lot of things that I said there, but the fact is you should never be penalized just being told that you should do nothing but have diamond hands. This is yours. Buy it when you want it, sell it when you want it, use it when you want it. Whatever you want to do with it, that's what it's there for. That's why Satoshi gave it to us. You're supposed to use it. Do something with it.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that's
sorry.
right. But if you have no way to use it in the way you need to spend it, then I mean, it makes sense to convert it. But I understand it
into something you can use it for.
Yeah, but it's fair to prioritize Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, because obviously the fiat system is definitely kind of
I agree
very
with
unreliable
you on that.
Right?
I agree with you on that, but of course there is some of that is just emotion, and that hodl is a forced imperative part of the cult, and it's a realization that they do for themselves to prove it. It's like, I hodled. It's all of a sudden I've achieved this level, this notoriety that I haven't sold. It's really weird. I don't know. I don't know. I don't like it when people get like that. The whole orange eyes and diamond eyes and all these kind of crappy things they did. That was a retarded thing. If you want Bitcoin, I think you should want Bitcoin. That would be my opinion. I think everyone should own some Bitcoin. But if you should want to sell, God bless you. Sell it if you want.
Yeah, but I think it's just a community thing.
Later on. You may play that price later on, because I think Bitcoin has shown its trajectory, but it also has volatility, and we've seen extreme volatility in Bitcoin. And so that just matters of when you sell it, of course, whether it's of a value returned to you or a loss of value. When you want to sell it, there may be a smarter time or a dumb time. That would be one thing I would say. But if you need to sell it, you should sell. That's just whatever.
Yeah, I think it's normal, right? Like, communities kind of create bonds, and then they start to like identify each other with like those core things, right? And you've seen we have had the same issues with Divi, where some people were accused of selling or accused of creating problems, and of course there were people who were having some malicious actions, right? But besides that, a lot of people who were just selling what they had and they needed it or whatever, they took the decision for whatever reason, and they were really called out. And that's definitely, I think, people who do that feel like, hey, you're abandoning us, and it's kind of strange, but there is this kind of community aspect where if you start to sell, it's perceived that now you're against it, which is crazy, because again, you need to use it. But yeah, I think it is driven by fear, right? Fear of not being not having done the right choice. Like, it is for people, they see that as a red flag, and I think, yes, it needs to change. In fact, the speculation about the Wintermute thing and basically exchange dumping, this is as old as exchange. I mean, I remember I was hearing that when I started in crypto. Oh yeah, Binance is doing this and that and all that, but nothing has been proven very clearly, right? And you can expect that there are major moves, because there are major moves. Like, those dumps happen for a reason. The exchange is behind, or users being behind, right? And so can imagine there are major arbitrage opportunities. So I can't imagine the number of funds that needs to be moving that would be, quote unquote, legitimate, right? In that sense, um, to isolate if there is really manipulation behind. Now, I wouldn't be surprised that there are some actors who are manipulating. There are always people who are trying to take advantage of situations, but I don't know if it's like widespread, the whole industry. Um, I think it is a bit of a stretch until we have some proof.
Yeah. So let's talk about because it's still in the news about regulation. What we know, how we interpret it. There's I think the crypto czar, whose name is not coming to me at the moment. It probably never will. Not because I hate him. It's I'm bad with names.
I don't remember it either.
But he and four other dudes spoke on this. My overall impression after listening to that was same shit, different people. It was the same communication that I heard from the last administration. Like, America needs to be, at the forefront of digital asset technology, and we need to put some rules in place. So it was basically that. Okay, I'm being told it's David Sachs. So thank you for writing it down. I'll forget that the second we put this away. So the last administration, this administration have the same, at this point, same message in that form. The other message is Trump made a coin, and it went viral. It raised $13 billion or something like that. So there's that message. And then there's the other message of, like, we're doing this now, as opposed to like the last administration, we need to do something, who knows when. Like, the differences are in the way it was communicated, not so much the communication itself, which was very similar.
I think the key takeaway is that Tim Scott says, I'm going to do this within the first 100 days of this new administration.
Right.
He set a goal, right?
Yep.
I mean, that's the one key thing that's different than, we should do something. We're investigating something. He's actually saying that he's going to have bills through the Senate. That's what he stated, within the first 100 days.
Yeah.
At least there's some bookend we can say from now.
That's the difference I'm talking about, because so I talked to somebody else about this. There's no specificity about what they're putting through in that thing, in that PR event.
So what they mentioned, though, I think it's important. What they mentioned is that they will work with the two chambers, right, Senate and Congress, and they will follow the FIT21 model. And they said that they also reminded, I think they didn't say it as clear, but basically that if it didn't go through last time, it's only because Biden vetoed it, right?
Yes,
and so,
exactly.
And so it will be easier to push it through, and they already have bipartisan support. So that's what they were saying, basically, during that conference. So a lot of focus on the FIT21 model, and a big part of what they mentioned, because they kept repeating it, is support for stablecoins. Right? They mentioned that stablecoins would be a tool for them to strengthen the dollar role in the digital asset industry, and so they want to support stablecoins, USD pegged stablecoins, obviously.
Yep. I did go. Oh, and the other thing that was missing really was, something tangible about a Bitcoin reserve. So there's a Senator Loomis that's her bill that she's pushing through. And I'll get to another comment about that in a second. But they just mentioned it. They didn't actually talk about, we're doing this, we're not doing this. And I think the reason for that is, like, well, let's move into this next part. Is I was just at an event yesterday where there were some people from blockchain projects, but there's also a lot of kind of lobbyist and senator folks speaking at it. So if you don't know, there's a thing called the Bitcoin Association. It's the or Blockchain Association. Let me get that right. Blockchain Association. They are essentially a lobbyist group that are talking to the senators and congressmen about what is right and wrong, like, to do in crypto. And so if getting blockchain through the government is like your bag, I would heavily look into the Blockchain Association, what they're doing, who's running it, and so forth. But everything I heard from them sounded pretty, what I would expect if we want to get blockchain through a government. In my perfect world, we're ignoring the government, but that's there's also the world we live in. Anyway, so they also mentioned that any new legislation will follow the FIT21 model. And if we want to go through that, just as an overview, the FIT21 model really kind of assigns between the SEC and the CFTC who controls what kind of digital assets. So the SEC will probably remain in control of very centralized things that are clearly, you bought this coin to, as an investment vehicle. So that's still like the problem was everybody was making a coin to do the thing because they wanted to avoid that. So now the CFTC will probably have authority over the coin to do the thing. So commodities and things that are, that are more decentralized and functional blockchain systems. They did talk about that things like meme coins are classified as collectibles, and I don't know where that goes. If anything, that'll also not be the SEC. That'll be, if anything, the CFTC, or not regulated at all. And so, like, anybody who has a blockchain that's not a meme coin, following the Trump path for deploying a meme coin is a bad idea. You definitely, like, it's a meme coin, it's a collectible. If you're not making collectibles, you don't do it that way. So I've gotten legal advice on that and so forth. I am not a lawyer. I'm not giving any advice. I'm telling you what my lawyer told me. So it's not the same path. It's not the same thing. And there is now going to be oversight from two different groups, depending on what the form and format of the digital asset is. There's also creating some actual criteria for digital assets, like how is it decentralized? And to be clear, in my mind, decentralized is a question about nodes. Their mind, decentralization is a question about who owns how much of the asset. So decentralization is a scale about ownership of an asset. So nobody should own more than X percent. I think they're talking about 20%, but and then they would say, okay, this is decentralized. I hate that they're talking about it as an on binary thing. It is or it isn't, when that really doesn't make sense. So I think that's what we're relying on the Blockchain Association to kind of push and make people understand, that decentralization comes in many forms and it's not binary. It's not something like, you're pregnant or you're not. It's not like that. You're not decentralized or not. So there needs to be a scale, and that probably needs to get in there. I don't think it is right now. Functionality is another one to understand, what the blockchain does. So it's functional. Again, this is another binary thing. It's functional if it allows participants to use digital assets for value transmission, service participation, or governance within the system. And that's not a meme coin, right? So I think
they're conflating distribution and where it's weighted and decentralization. There's many different things. It's kind of like the blockchain trilemma or cap theorem. Those are different weights, but they're conflating things together inappropriately. And I don't know how to fix that.
I'd say it's worse than that.
like some projects who are very wealthy today have an advantage at this not being very clear, you know. So now
Yeah.
that would be interesting to see how this progresses. but
Right.
but very clearly we can expect that now you will have different factions that will be trying to, you know, take the US government in their direction,
Right.
and we will have to
Yeah.
keep like remain
So
aware and informed about what is happening.
So it's not a hypothesis that's happening, and so that was also recognized at this event I went to. Like the bigger player, like every single time something tries to get regulated, the bigger players who are already entrenched in the field want the regulation to allow them and disallow new players that are doing something different. It happens
Yeah.
in every industry that gets regulated by a government. It's one of my chief complaints against regulating industries. And that's happening in our industry. So the bigger players, like I'm going to say names, but I don't know that this is actually happening with these particular names. But Coinbase, Ripple, those folks are definitely trying to push regulation
Yeah.
in a
Their
way that
interest.
benefits them and
Yeah.
stifles competition.
Yeah.
So that it's already been noticed by the people who are, working at this at the government level. So the last two things are really when you have new legislation, new committees show up. So it's the creation of new committee might be the wrong word, but new committees show up that kind of deal with this. That's like Elon right now is like slashing those committees that are created by legislation just like this, like in other fields.
Yeah.
So something is going to be created for this that follows it or monitors it or whatever. And then finally, stablecoin treatment. So there's supposed to be some stablecoin assurances in this also. And again, we're going to see even there, we're going to see entrenched people make plays like USDC, even fighting Tether, or certainly smaller stable coins like
Right.
trust us, this is the government one, right? So
Well, it's in our interest to have multiple. We need to
totally,
have
it's our interest
multiple
to have
USD
lots.
pegged
Yeah.
stablecoin, because
Yeah.
otherwise
Correct.
it's back to CBDC.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Like that's a matter of time. For me, that's a matter of time. Like, Trump may not deploy Trump's administration may not deploy CBDCs, but what's happening here is exactly the same as happens the other ways. They're going to put stuff in place. They're going to create this committee, right? And then the next administration is going to be able to use the infrastructure he builds towards crypto for different means if they want to. That's exactly what happens every single time they create infrastructure, is that it gets used by the people who didn't create the infrastructure for their purposes. And
Yeah.
that's, this is what we're gonna see happen. And I only know it because it happens every single time. It's not a case where this kind of thing doesn't happen.
But then that fight will be won, and we will be able to fight for the privacy one. That will be interesting, right?
Yeah, that'll
the
be
privacy
interesting.
Anonymity one. It will
it'll
be the
interesting.
justification. Like if it goes back to the same stage, we will it will justify now to go a further step.
Yeah. And, it'll be interesting in that this will allow the industry to grow some and perhaps get to a place where it really doesn't matter what they legislate, because we definitely have technology that obviates that. So anyway, that's what Fit 21 is.
Yeah, maybe to close this chapter, on the one good thing that I was surprised during this press conference is that they hinted at multiple times during the press conference about integrating blockchain in a lot of state operations, and not just the cryptocurrency aspect. So it was pretty interesting to hear.
I heard it again at this event. I don't think they were parroting just what they said. They went a little bit deeper, but they're definitely looking at that. So the Blockchain Association guy was claiming that in the next 2 weeks, we're going to see I forgot what he said it was. It's not FIT21. Some other pretty significant crypto legislation go through. And then he said there's going to be a pause because there's some other stuff they got to deal with. And we probably won't see, we're going to see the FIT21 stuff towards the end of the 100 days, not in the beginning. And then I'm going to tell you the other thing that they said is that there's a lot of skepticism that a Bitcoin reserve will pass this year or next. And that was kind of entrenched. That idea was entrenched throughout this entire. Not the
Right, so
entire
that was the bad
event,
point I
but-
was going to raise from this press conference, is that they actually didn't mention Bitcoin, if I remember correctly. It's only when someone
didn't,
asked
yeah.
about the Bitcoin reserve that he answered that they will be looking at the Bitcoin reserve feasibility.
Yes.
So for me, this term
Exactly.
is very important.
Yep. No,
Because
they
that
were
means that
very
they're not
careful.
sure that they actually can do it, at least in the current legal framework or legislative framework, right? So they might have to do other things before this is actually feasible. So that was
There's actually another little thing that kind of, it's not little, but it kind of came out because there's a lot of conflation. There's a bill around a Bitcoin reserve, right? And that is, we're going to store Bitcoin like we stored gold. And it's going to have protections and so forth, none of which I believe, but whatever. And then there's confusion whether there's a Bitcoin reserve or a digital assets reserve. But what was made clear is there's the only things on the table are a Bitcoin reserve and a digital asset stockpile. Now the stockpile is right now, it already exists. It's everything the government has stolen from people, right? Or like when they arrested people and were able to get their keys, right? So they already have a stockpile. And then the question whether is to make that a real thing with certain rules and things about it, but it'll be liquid. It'll be like, we can dump the whole stockpile tomorrow. It's not a reserve. And so that was the other thing. So a digital asset stockpile versus a Bitcoin reserve, they also made clear is kind of like the road that they're going down.
And I think that's for where US seems to be going, and also a lot of support for stable coins.
Yes.
Yeah. I needed to say that because really it was pretty much like 50% or plus from the press conference.
Right. And and there's also a lot of, hey, banks can actually hold your crypto, can hold your stable coin.
Right.
The banks can integrate stable coins if they want. That's the kind of stuff that they were kind of going towards.
And actually, I didn't put that in the notes, but the SEC the next day, because they also announced an SEC task force for crypto, and then they published a 10-point list of what they will focus on, and it is really critical points like the security status, the scope, coin and token offering, registered offering. Like basically, they go through all the things that we need an answer to. And it seems that it will be moving forward in that direction too.
It's just clarity. Like that's what everybody's talking about here. It's like we're finally going to get some clarity. We may not like all of it. It's guaranteed we won't like all of it, but at least we'll know what it is.
That's right.
All right.
Okay, let's move to Divi news. So
yeah,
a few days ago, I think it was 3 days ago now, or maybe 4. We're recording on the 6th. So Xeggex went down, so people could not connect, and initially we didn't have information, and slowly information started to come, and we've seen that the CEO, like the first story that we got is that the CEO was potentially phished or hacked in some ways, and then they took control over the website and the Telegram. And of course, there was a lot of fear about funds being in danger. So for now, obviously, we can't confirm anything, but they've been reporting multiple times. They've been reporting that the funds are safe. However, they're reporting that they have a database issue. So maybe you want to talk a little bit about that, Voice.
Sure, sure. And sorry, I had to mute myself a couple of times. You could tell my voice is a little bit hoarse. So for those who don't know, obviously, when you deal with a centralized exchange, the only portion that's really crypto related is where you deposit the crypto. And of course, then when you ask for them to ship out crypto, what they do is they just keep track of all of that in a database. And so when you deposit, let's say 1 Bitcoin, it goes to the database and says you have 1 Bitcoin. When you trade, let's say Bitcoin for USDT, in the database there's USDT, and then of course it just records those changes, just like you could on a piece of paper, but not actually move any money. So these databases that they have are a type of database that is very flexible. It's actually not a bad database, although there's been times I have cursed it. And it seems to be that whatever happened when this group or person, whoever it was, that was able to acquire the access to the entire site, which is being reported as a social hack, meaning that they got the keys in some other way, not actually something related to the technology itself, which we've seen happen before. The database itself has now become corrupted. So whatever happened in between them losing control and regaining control, for whatever reason, became corrupt. How it became corrupt, it's not being disclosed yet. The problem is that when you have a corrupt database, you have to somehow have knowledge to repair it. And there is some information they've shared, which from just a very surface level, it makes sense on how they're going to attack repairing it, but they are bringing in outside help anyway to make sure that they get the database repaired. What matters is not when you put in or even that you pulled out. It's just about whether or not they can balance that based upon, let's say, if you've ever used something like not TurboTax, but what's the Quicken? Like if you've used Quicken, if your whole history in Quicken gets deleted, you have no idea who did what, where, when, why you paid who, or what, or where, or when. You can see your bank account, and it can see these things going out, but if none of that stuff is connected, you're lost. So we hope that they can get that reorganized and reset back up and recovered. That would be great. But we don't know.
They have a backup. We're hoping. We're hoping a lot of things. So we just don't know. Yeah, we just don't know.
I guess for those who have never used Quicken, if you've used any sort of a notebook where you had incoming and outgoing, and you wrote them down on paper, and if somebody threw out that notebook, you'd lose. You just know your bank account had so much money.
Right.
That's essentially the issue. So to make it super simple.
So yeah, so that's the current situation with their communication. So we hope that they will be able to restore those issues quickly. And we're waiting for info. Right now, the website displays maintenance.
Well, go ahead.
Sorry,
quick poll. Fund Seifu or no Fund Seifu?
So they're reporting Fund Seifu.
They say Fund Seifu, right?
No. This is a poll between me and you guys. What do you guys think?
I don't think that they would be reporting Fund Seifu if it wasn't Seifu. I think that they would have been quiet and not say anything. But it is concerning. There's no question. However, I'm not worried. I'm not losing sleep over it. I have some funds there, and I know
me too.
I don't know who else does. Yeah, if you do too.
I do.
You do. So all three of us have some funds there. I'm not losing sleep over it. It's not that I'm going to be happy, of course, obviously, but I'm not freaking out because they've been smart, I think, about how they've communicated. They're not just having their support team repeating the same message over and over again. They're telling people to just wait until they can do the discovery on what this person that manipulated whomever it was has reported and what they did to damage the database, however it was damaged. I'm not saying they did it, but whatever did the damage, how they can recover it.
Yeah, so that's
if
the
they
issue,
can't
right?
balance it, it becomes difficult, right?
Like when you ask that, you ask actually two questions, right? When you ask Fund Seifu, is one, is there anything malicious? I don't know. I don't think so. It doesn't look like that. I
Yes,
think
correct.
Xeggex was actually on a good path. Like it was actually
Correct.
having more and more achievements, getting more and more features on the website. So I don't think it would have been matching with that. I think also the timing in the market is not really the timing where we see the rug pull time, if I can call it like that. So I would be surprised. However, if they have a database issue, if they didn't have a proper backup, then yes, then it can be a major issue, because if they can't link the money with the people,
Yeah.
that would be difficult. So I mean, now they're working with experts from Mongo. That's what
Yeah.
they reported. So
Correct.
let's cross fingers.
So, and let's think about this for a second. We all know there's a risk whenever we deal with a centralized exchange, but what other exchanges have been hacked? Nearly all of them. I mean, we think about KuCoin, right? KuCoin was hacked, right? They had a problem, but that was many years ago, and it wasn't a small amount of money that they had a problem with, and they actually lost funds, right? KuCoin is still here. KuCoin, I think, did the best they could to make it right. BitTrue is another one that's close in the community. Remember when we were first with BitTrue, it was about a year after they had opened. They had a problem, but they made it right. They were able to go through, maybe it was 2 years after. They made it right. It's the cases to where I think that you have a situation where it's inside, and like you think about Cryptopia and those kinds of things, that
Yeah.
have other issues we need to worry about. I don't think that we're in those kinds of situations.
Cool. Let's talk about our website.
Yes, so
Sure.
the website is moving forward. So we met with the agencies that is doing the design. They now started the first copy, so we're reviewing that, and they will start the Figma design, I would assume, next week, because we'll approve that. It's planned for tomorrow. So Friday the 7th, we'll approve that. So I expect the next week, so pretty much when you will be watching this video, they will have started the Figma design. And then once this is done, again, some fine tuning about this design. We'll most likely publish the pictures so that you can have a preview of how the website would look like. But then they will just have to develop it. It's actually the quickest phase. The longest part is really to prepare all the rest. So yeah, so expect to have some more news in a couple weeks in the next video.
Exciting.
But the website is moving forward.
You want to tell people what the Figma design means?
Oh yeah, sure. So Figma is a software. Yeah, I'm sorry. Figma is a software where you can do graphic design, and then you can basically develop a full website model and framework that you can then transfer easily when you do your web design. So it also works for apps, mobile apps and all that. Like all the screens that you were having in the mobile wallet were actually designed in Figma first. It's basically a picture.
Yeah.
Let me just say
design
this.
your whole UX there, everything about like how what it looks like to a user, but it doesn't actually do anything. Like it's not.
That's right.
Just
That's
the
right.
front.
It's like a static image of the website.
Yeah.
So I just want to say this, that we can you made fun of Neeks just for a little bit. You want to explain Figma. You're right. Most of the people listening to this won't know what Figma is, but I'm going to tell you, Neeks knew nothing about Figma just a couple of years ago, maybe even less. And now he's a Figma magician. So the fact that you can know nothing, and I really mean he knew nothing about it, and then all of a sudden one day, because he spent time self-educating, he's rock and roll. I'm not going to say he's a master. He's far better than I am. I look at it and I go, eyes blurry. It's beautiful when it works. But it just tells you that you can be a person who can know nothing about some technology, and just by spending a little bit of time watching a YouTube video, reading an article, all of a sudden, bang, you're doing things for your friends you didn't know was even possible. So it's just funny because he went from noob to know some, right? That was something I used to say all the time in Figma. So you can all become uber geeks in Figma. Anyway, I won't talk anymore, but That's just
All
awesome.
right. And then I'm sure everybody is wondering what happened to the $15,000. So let's talk about that.
That's right. So I would have liked to have more time because we're kind of short on time. The video is getting pretty long, but we'll talk about it again next time. So we were able to reach $15,000. So I remind everybody that the initial minimal goal was 10,000. 15,000 is great. Now really need to understand what it means. I invite again everyone, as we did multiple times, to read those articles. We shared multiple marketing elements, kind of modules of some marketing campaign that we can do, and you can see some pricing that is not really. It's kind of representative of the kind of pricing that we can secure for those initiatives, and basically we have prepared a plan, a complete description of the goals we want to attain, and now we're communicating with the marketing agencies we already established contact with, and we're waiting for them to come back to us, and basically they will propose us some combination of those services, and I also ask them to provide basically steps further if we would have more money, so that if we are able to raise more money, we can see what we can access to, right? And so then we can have like a complete strategy of what we're doing when the website comes out, because I think it's very important to have those things synchronized. When the website will go out, we'll be able to make those this marketing campaign and attract people to the new website, attract people to what Divi is doing, make them realize that Divi will be at the center of the future of blockchain interoperability. So it is really the whole goal of that, and then we will update you whenever the agency comes back with that. So most likely next video we'll have some information about that.
Okay. Cool. Oh, and we also thank you to everybody for donating and giving us this budget to be able to market something finally after all this time.
That's right.
So,
That's right. Yeah. So a little information, because we had that. It was pretty much like 70% in tokens, and a little bit in like 30% in stablecoins. So I did convert. Thank you, Rob, for sending it. I did convert most of that. So we have like a little bit more than 9,000 with stablecoins, and we have 53, I believe, Litecoin that we still have in the wallet. So that's we are exposed like 30% to the market, and so it should be fine.
Cool.
All right.
And with that, I think we're going to wrap it up. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much, guys. As always, you can reach us on Telegram or Discord. And of course, we've got the website that you can visit, but you'll visit a new website in the upcoming future. And thanks for hanging out with us.
Can't wait for the website to reflect the new things. The website looks old now. Every time I look at it, I'm like, no, I want the new one. Okay, bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone.